Hey everyone, so a new year kicks off, and you know that feeling that's in the air, right? It's this pressure, this idea that we have to completely reinvent ourselves. But what if there's a different way? A quieter, maybe even more powerful way to look at a fresh start. Instead of making all these big resolutions, let's talk about the idea of just finding our direction. It starts almost right away, doesn't it? The resolutions, the huge plans, the talk of dramatic changes. You see it on social media, you hear it in conversations. It's like this giant wave of grand declarations. And honestly, it feels like it sets an incredibly high bar before the year's even really gotten started.
And all that noise, it just creates this immense pressure. This feeling that you've got to sprint right out of the gate, to prove to everybody, and maybe even to yourself, that this is the year everything's going to be different. But that exact feeling, that rush, that's usually where the trouble begins.
So, let's get right into why this whole traditional approach tends to fall apart. It's a super common story, isn't it? Why do so many of our best intentions and big promises just seem to, well, fade away by February?
When you really break it down, the foundation of a New Year's promise is built on stuff that's naturally temporary. That excitement for a fresh start, that's an emotion. That first burst of energy you feel, that's motivation. And both of those things are tied directly to your mood, which, as you know, can change day by day, sometimes even hour by hour. It's just not a stable foundation for any kind of long-term change. And listen, this part is so important. When a resolution fizzles out, it's incredibly easy to feel like you've failed. But it's not a flaw in your character, it's actually a flaw in the strategy itself. We're trying to use these temporary feelings to power permanent change, and that's just not how our brains are wired to work.
Okay, so if promises are so fragile, what's the alternative? This is where a totally different idea comes into play: direction. It's a real shift in how we think, moving away from all those loud declarations and more towards a quiet, internal compass. And you can really see the difference laid out here. Promises, they're fragile, they're often public, they need all that hype and excitement to get going. But direction? That's built to last. It doesn't need excitement. It runs on clarity. It's not some big social media announcement, it's a quiet, personal decision. And here's the kicker. It's anchored in your core values, not just a passing mood.
So at its heart, finding your direction isn't about making some fancy 10-point plan. It's really about just pausing for a minute to get clear. It's that quiet, internal gut check of asking, what really matters to me right now? And, just as important, what am I ready to let go of?
And this is the beautiful thing that happens when you get that clarity. When your direction is clear, you stop fighting with yourself all the time. It's no longer about forcing yourself to do something. Instead, your actions just start to line up naturally with that internal compass. You start to just allow the change to happen because it's in line with who you've already decided you want to be.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But how does this quiet idea of direction actually create real, tangible results in everyday life? How does it actually work?
I mean, this quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? That big, flashy goal-setting session you do once a year is actually less powerful than the small, almost invisible habit you do day after day. Direction isn't about a one-time thing. It's about the tiny, consistent adjustments that quietly add up to something huge over time.
You can see the process itself is just so much calmer. It doesn't start with a mad dash of action. It starts with clarity, with thinking things through. From there, you just move steadily, not in a panicked rush. And the decisions that guide you are calm and deliberate, not emotional and reactive. It really is a marathon, not a sprint.
I just love this reframe. A new year isn't some demand for you to become a totally different person overnight. Think of it more like a clean page, an opportunity to continue your own journey, just with a little more awareness, a little more clarity about that direction you've quietly set for yourself.
All right, so we've talked about the why and the what. But that leaves the most important question of all, right? How do you actually start this? What's that very first step you can take today?
It's the question that can feel the most overwhelming. With all the things you could do, all the different paths you could take, what is the one simple thing you can do right now?
You know what? It all boils down to this. It's not about a to-do list. It's about a decision about your values and your boundaries. What are you going to stand on this year? What principles matter to you? And maybe even more powerfully, what are you no longer willing to stand for? That is the foundation. That is your direction. And really, that's it.
That's all it takes. No fireworks, no big public announcements, no grand prophecies. Just that one quiet internal decision. That is more than enough to set your course for the year ahead. Thanks so much for joining me today.